Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 5. I have one of my most favorite people on the whole planet, Holly, here with me today. And we've got some really good stuff for you. We want to share this with you. You want us to talk about? I'm just gonna jump right in.
Here I am.
I'm just gonna jump
Holly.
right in. Yeah, this is Holly.
I'm Holly.
How do you want to talk about like how we met? Like we worked out at a gym together called Massive Action Training. And we actually didn't work out together at first. You were in
6 a.m.
The
or
5:15. You were in the 5:15 a.m. class.
A.m. class.
Yeah, a.m. And I was in the like the 8 o'clock, class, right? And there wasn't a class in between. And so we had we did a lot of HIIT training. And so we had these rounds that we had to do. And I would get there that morning and I'd be like, oh, well, Holly did 4. So I'm going to do
40. Holly did 40.
So I'm going to do more. Like, it was just like, I'm so competitive. I have such a competitive nature. Mm-hmm. And I never played sports or anything, but that was all of it. So man, I did more. And then
every time. She had a baseline. That's the only reason. She knew the minimum she had to get. I was just trying to get it, you know?
Holly was just trying to get it done. I was trying to get done
one more.
Yeah.
And one.
Well, and you know, it's funny because I've been listening to this book called Ed Milet, The Power of One More.
Yeah.
And that is such my personality. Like, okay, I'm just going to call one more person or I'm going to message one more person, you know? I can't let let it end on an odd number. It has to be an even number, you know? So we get to know each other and finally I'm like, okay, look, I got to go to this like 6 a.m. class because I got to know like who this Holly girl is. And we get to the class and it's like, oh my God, I met my people. Like in this like I started getting up at like 4:45 a.m. just to be in this class with you guys.
That's where the energy was.
That is
5:15 a.m.
That is definitely where the energy was. So I think we became friends pretty fast. Like, yeah, we would do stupid stuff and dance around.
Dance.
Yeah.
I love to dance.
Yeah, I love to dance.
There was a good beat on, and we had a split second. There was a little dance move in there.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's for sure. And we just got to know each other and spent time together, and we went through a tragedy together. Our trainer, TJ Camara, he actually committed suicide, and it brought us closer together as a family at Massive Action Training. And we were able to stay together for about a year after that. And then, of course, all the Rona crap hit and all that. But we were able to stay together for about a year. And then we kind of had to go separate ways and find different gyms and stuff. But man, I'm so thankful for that time that I got to spend with you in that gym and all those sunrises. And
what's really cool though is that, you know, when you leave a gym or when you have people in your life for certain seasons, but never did I ever think that you would roll into a different season of my life. Cause we went from seeing each other every day at the gym. And then, you know, it was probably a month later that you started joining me on Wednesday nights and you've been coming very steadily.
Yeah.
For almost a year now.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And that's something that's really been huge. So I'll let you tell a little bit about what we do on Wednesday nights.
So on Wednesday nights, we go to the Smith County Detention Center here that house local kids who have been arrested. All the kids are anywhere from ages like 9 to 17. And we go every Wednesday night. We bring in food. And then we share the gospel. And so I've been doing it for about 5 years. This specific group's been doing it for 10 years, but it was kind of passed on to me about 5 years ago. And I've just taken it. And so basically we just go in there and we go in pretty steady. We get to know who the kids are. We get to kind of see what's going on in some of their lives. But because we go every Wednesday and they do get to see the same faces over and over again, they've grown to expect us there. They've grown to like, hey, Miss Allison, how are you?
Hey, Miss Holly,
what you doing? I like
your shoes. I like your outfit.
I'm like, oh, thanks. I like my drip too. Whatever that is. And so it's really I just love it. I mean, even on Wednesdays, and I know we've talked about it, like sometimes we're just tired because we've got our jobs and working out and our kids and all those things, all the things. And so, even on Wednesdays driving up there, we're like, oh, I'm just so tired. But then you walk out of there, like, it's definitely the highlight of my week for sure.
Oh, for sure. Well, number one, we get to fill our cups. And I think sometimes it's for more selfish reasons. Like, I feel like sometimes I get more out of it than the kids do,
Yeah.
But I think one of the most interesting things about you is that your story and what led you to the Bible and Jesus and all of the things. I talked about last week how my church growing up was not a great experience, right? The boys just wanted in my pants. That's just how church was for me. And so I never really paid attention. It wasn't a good experience. So to listen to you and how you have studied it and how you have learned about the Bible and the stories, like I have learned more about the Bible in the last year of hanging out with you and doing this, right? And I get to bring like a realistic aspect to it, right?
Right.
Like you talk about like the biblical things, and I bring up like, okay, well, last week we talked about temptation, and I talked about how like I even got a paper plate and made Holly play the role of like me, right? And this girl walks by me with this paper plate full of cocaine, and she's like, don't you want some? And I talked about how, I hit my knees that night and asked God, please, if you just get me through this, I'll never put myself in this situation again. And I'm shaking even thinking about it. But being able to share that with the kids, they look at us and they're like, these girls didn't get in trouble. They don't know nothing.
They don't know. Look at them white ladies. They don't know nothing.
They don't know anything. Right. And so to be able to share some of that with them, they're in shock. Right.
Yeah.
And then being able to talk to some of the girls who have been abused and sexually abused and things like that. I got to have a great conversation with one of the girls. I was like, don't give that person that much power over you. Don't you dare. Right. You have your whole life to live. You can't be a victim of that. You have to survive that and you have to overcome it. And she said, I'm going to remember those words, and I'm like, bam, that's it. Like if that's the whole reason I'm here to be able to help one person.
That one person.
Yeah. And so it's cool. And we make a good team with it.
Cause it's so relaxed. We just come in and like you said, when I was growing up, I was raised Catholic, and then I got pregnant at a very young age. And when I tell I'll say that, and I felt rejected by the church, and I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. But then when I actually started studying the Bible, it is scandalous. It is scandalous. Everybody that should be like trash are the ones that God picks to do the most incredible things.
Right.
And that's what I love learning about the people in the Bible, where they were in that time period, what such a situation, like Mary getting pregnant at 14.
Right.
She trying to tell Joseph it was the Holy Spirit. Joseph's like, sure. But, the consequences that was stoning to death. And so, I like to put it in perspective that, what would you do? Like imagine. So,
well, and I love what you tell the kids, when we're in there, and the group is called Luke 17:10.
Yes.
And shout out to anybody, that wants to reach out to us and make any donations for Luke 17:10. We're always looking for money for Bibles. These kids have the Bibles. They want the Bibles of their own. And we put our phone numbers.
I got to tell this though. So we do on every Wednesday, we bring food. We've got a Whataburger Wednesday. We have a Taco Bell Wednesday, or Taco Bueno Wednesday. So if anybody wants to donate meals, holler at Allison or me. It's a really well-oiled machine. So we know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. But with the Bibles, we just started doing that. And we just buy as many Bibles as we can at a time. We put our names in it, and then we give it to them, because every week we're reading a chapter of the Bible. So they read the chapter of the Bible. Then we come in that following week and talk about it. And then we assign them the next. And if they read it, let me tell you, kids will do some stuff for some candy bars.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
So we tell them, like, read Matthew 4. and we'll have 3 questions, and they have to write it down and bring it in there, bring their paper, and then we have a full-size candy bar box that we let them choose whichever candy bar they want. And I'm telling you, every one of those dang kids, dang near all of them, will read their Bible for a candy bar. Yep. So, yeah, we're always looking for donations. If you hear this and you're like, man, I would love to try something like that, you are welcome to come. We always have guests. That's kind of what happened with Allison. She was like, yeah, I'll come in and talk. And then she came and she hadn't left. So
yeah, no, and I'm not leaving. Yeah. Like, I mean, I love that. And it's true, you're fatigued on your way there, and then you're pumped when you leave, and it just fills your spirit.
And they're so grateful. Thank you, Miss. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. This was you hear it a million times while you're there. Yeah. Because you brought ranch for the French fries. Yeah. Or brought some cheese for the hamburgers.
Yeah. Unless you get one of the new girls and she looks at you and you say, do you want some chocolate chip? Do you want a couple of chocolate chip cookies? And she says, are they warm? I said, baby, I don't think this is the Hilton. I'm not quite sure where you're from, but you're not at the Hilton right now.
But she tried.
She did. She tried. She tried.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, I want you to share a little bit about your story and what got you here. You talked about teenage pregnancy and things like that. So talk to us a little bit. Share your story, because I think you have one of the most incredible stories that I've ever heard, and a story of success and recovery and all of it, like all the good things. So
yeah. Well, again, thank you for letting me be here to share my story. But
I'm honored you're here. Are you kidding me? I got you at like 5 o'clock on a Monday.
I know, Bill. But so I was I'm from Tyler. Lived in Tyler my whole life. Went to John Tyler High, TJC, UT Tyler. I've tried to move a couple of times. I hadn't moved dang near 33 times. I have not. I think I've moved like 4. But I went to school. I was a smart student. I was in an honors program. I was captain of the drill team. I mean, I had everything going for me. My mom was, the captain president. She was on the IB, which was the honors program. She was the president of that board. I mean, she was very involved. But then my last semester, my senior year, I found drugs. And about that time, too, my dad passed away. My grandmother passed away. I was still trying to be very successful in all. I had a full dance scholarship to the University of North Texas in Denton. And then my senior year, that ending of the senior year, I got pregnant. And so when you can't touch your toes, they take away your dance scholarship. So that ended pretty quickly, and I had to come back to Tyler. And I think I was depressed because here I was, my baby's daddy was in prison. It was an abusive relationship. My parents basically showed up. I had 2 black eyes, and they, within same kind of story as yours, within like 5 hours, they had packed up my entire house and they moved me back home. So here I was, 19 years old. I had a baby. I just got out of an abusive relationship. I was, this was not the life that I was supposed to have.
For sure, right?
I'm supposed to be on my way to New York. I was going to be a rockette. I mean, I had big dreams.
Sure.
And they, within 6 months, were just completely destroyed. So I got real depressed. Then my dad died. Then my grandmother passed away. And I just didn't know how to cope. I didn't have a relationship with God. I thought there was a God. Like, I knew there was a God, but I just really felt like he was too busy to have anything to do with me and my mess. Like I said before, I was raised Catholic. Nothing against Catholic people, because I have some very devoted Catholic, but I was unable to find a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I got into drugs pretty heavily. There was times that
what were you doing?
Cocaine. So it started off with cocaine, and then it went to meth pretty quickly. And so I too was, had some drug endeavors, running it back and forth between Dallas, and I never got caught Although I never got officially caught, but we'll go back to that statement in just a second. And so, I mean, I went to rehab multiple times. There was times when my parents were like, either go to rehab or we're taking your kid from you. And I chose to not go to rehab. I'd take my kid. I don't care. And I just ran off. And at that point, in my mind, I had it set that I'm such a mess up. I'm such a screwed up. Look, what have I done with my life? My son is better off with my parents. And I'd really believed that. And then the very last time, February 2nd, 2007, was my clean date. And I went into a program. It's called ProMeta. I don't even know if you know this story about me, but it was a program that it was a experimental drug. And they had the A group and the B group, and one group got the medicine, the other group didn't get the medicine. And it was experimental. There's a long story behind that. But anyways, I ended up getting the drug to help you get clean. And I have been clean ever since. Yeah. So, that was, but right before that, my God moment was right before that. I had given up my son. I was living at a drug house. I weighed about 115 pounds. I was nasty. It was scary. It was gross. And it was just this moment where I was on the floor in a corner, walled up, going, God, please help. If you'll just let me live, I promise I won't put myself in this situation again. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. The next day I called and made an appointment for that drug trial. So, and that was one of the ones that stayed in my mind the most.
Come back to the mic.
Oh, sorry. I'm new at this. Testing 1, 2. No. But that was, I mean, I have so many moments in my life, and every time I have this, what we call a God moment, when you feel him, you feel his presence. Every time it's just moved me closer to him. And so, my last God moment, or not my last, because I have them all the time, but the one when I was like, right before I started doing this ministry, was there was some things going on in my life. And for like 8 months, I prayed to God, God, please don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. God, I promise you that if you don't let this happen, I will dedicate my life to you. I will go out from the mountains and speak your name.
Sure.
And I prayed, please don't let this happen. Well, it happened. And I was devastated. Like, God, how could you let this one thing that I specifically asked you to not do, let it happen? And it happened. And so I was angry for about 24 to 48 hours. But
can I ask what that thing was?
Yeah. So that thing was,
because that's too juicy to not.
I know. So, I had a child that went through the criminal justice system at Smith County, and he was there for a little while, and then he ended up getting locked up for about 2 years. And I prayed for God to not, please, please don't
let him get locked up.
Don't let him get locked up.
Yeah.
And I begged for that, and he did. And in that moment, I was devastated. It crushed. I mean, I still remember walking through the parking lot sobbing, but immediately singing "Our God is an Awesome God" while crying, walking to the car by myself. Like, just not loud, but just, because I think it was then that I realized that, okay, God, you're God. I'm not. Even though I don't like what you're doing right now, or I don't like how this is all playing out, I'm going to trust you.
I have goosebumps.
And everything that I told you I was going to do, if you made what I wanted part of your will, I'm still going to do it. And so I ended up doing it. So even though my son went through the system, that's why I go in there to see those kids, because I know what it's like to be a parent on the other side.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it. It's brought me so much joy. So
Well, and it's interesting. First, and thank you for sharing all of that. And it's so interesting how you and I have had some really good, deep conversations, right? We want the best for each other because we know what each of us has been through, right? And so I remember a conversation I was having with you, and I don't know if I've ever been so humbled in that
I know the
moment.
conversation. Because for a split moment you were silent, and you're not ever really silent. She was like, kind of a gasp.
It was just like that. We were talking about something, and I just said, I just
hope I didn't mess this
I
up.
hope I didn't mess this up.
Uh-huh.
And Holly goes, Allison, you're not that powerful. I was like, what? What are you talking?
Personality.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm not that powerful? But yeah, that was a humbling moment. I think that one of the coolest things is our friendship gives us the gift of being able to be really real with each other and like, okay, listen, it's too much, or I need more, or what do you need? What can I do for you? And it's a very, I don't want to say it's a give and take relationship. I think we're just both on the same page in life, and we want some of the same stuff. And I never thought this far into life in my 40s, I would find like my girl soulmate. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, like I feel like we have that connection.
Yeah.
Like, and so I always, first of all, one of the first things I said to you is like, I get to see you twice this week. Like, this is so cool. Cause we used to get to see each other every day. And 6 a.m. we're laughing and cracking up and dancing and having a good time. Who else is doing that at 6 a.m.?
It's too much.
Nobody.
I'm here to tell you. You're too much.
we are a little much when we're together. But then to be able to, go have dinner every once in a while, every couple of weeks after we sit with the kids and talk to them and spend time with them. And then just being able to go sit down and reflect on that and like how it's affected our lives and what's going on in our lives. I'm so grateful for your friendship and for all of it.
Well, and I'm so thankful for you, Allison. What I love about is you've said it, you're still fresh into the whole Bible thing, and that doesn't intimidate you. Like, there are so many people out there on Wednesday nights that would want to go, but they're like, oh, I don't know enough. And that's not a requirement to talk about Jesus. Sure. And that's what I love about that. And so whenever you come in there on Wednesday, it's, you're not some theological expert.
Sure.
But you just give it to them as real as possible with real life situations. And that's what these kids need. How do I take this, what we just read, and look at it back then, but then take that information and use it for my life today.
Right. So, and that's the cool thing too, is I always ask God, like, just like, of course we read, and in the beginning, Holly sent me these little YouTube videos that would like help me understand, break down the passage for me. Yeah. And it was like, I still look for those, and I still listen to a YouTube video on my way there every time. And that's after I've been reading for a couple of days, and I just want like a different breakdown of it. Right. And sometimes I get things that I can share with the kids from that. But more than anything, I'm like, God, just, give me the right words to say to these kids, and just give me the words that you want me to say. And then I just play off of you, and it works out really well most of the time. It does. Really well. Yeah. And then I have to be like last week, I was like, don't steal what I'm fixing to talk about.
Yeah. As I'm talking, she's like, that's mine. That's mine.
Yep. So, but that's the thing is, I think we value each other very much as, human beings and God's children. And I think it's amazing the things that we've been through, right? And the fight that we have in us. And even though we were at the bottom, it was the end for us. We kept fighting, Yeah. And that's what I want people to understand. And I say this in almost every podcast. It doesn't matter where you've come from, right? It doesn't matter the depths of the despair that you've been in. You have a choice every day when you wake up. You can be a victim of everything that's happened to you, or you can be a survivor of all that, and you can have it mold you into something stronger, right? God doesn't put us through nothing for nothing.
No, look at the Bible.
Yeah.
Look at the Bible.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So I want to ask you one thing, and I don't think I really prompted you about talking about this, but one of the, your career has been very successful, and it's different than mine, right? I am in multi-level marketing or direct sales with Xyngular, products, the whole 9 yards. Lost 75 pounds. I've kept it off, and I've built a really successful business. But yours is a little different. And so I'm always interested. I look at you as a leader in your job and your company and what you do. But I always want to know, like, what is the hardest thing that you've ever dealt with as a leader? And how have you overcome that? I know that's like right off, but usually people can think about.
I know.
Okay.
I
Well,
know.
most people know.
Which is so I know. One of the conflict is probably one of my, and not even conflict, like how to approach a conversation that's going to be difficult. And so sometimes I self-fiber. I self-fiber. I've been very successful. I also train people. And so in my job, anytime that there's not necessarily that I'm trying to make conflict, but if there's a scenario where you have to stand your ground and fight whatever fight that may be, maybe it's a billing battle, maybe it's, a battle about a customer that you're, whatever that is. I've never been really good at that. I can do it. It's just painful. It's very painful for me to tell people this is mine, because I'm like, oh, you can have it. You want this one too?
Right.
That's just me.
You're just giving.
I'm just giving.
Yeah.
I'll give you whatever. And so, I mean, that's, as being a leader, that's probably the hardest thing for me is to, I don't even know how to terminology that.
Well, like, how do you feel like you've overcome that? Like just by doing it?
Just by doing it.
Yeah.
Be the buffalo. That's something that my boss. So story is cows, when they hear a storm coming, the cows, they run away from the storm. And so therefore they end up being longer in the storm because it follows with them. However, buffaloes, when they see a storm coming, they head towards it. So they end up being in the storm less long. So be the buffalo. Just run through it.
So interestingly enough, you bring that up, and Robin Packard, she'll be one of my guests on here. She is like the top leader in Xyngular, and that was one of her speeches
Really?
a couple of events ago.
Yeah.
That was one of her speeches, was be the buffalo.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of people on my team that like their profile picture is a buffalo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they see like buffalo signs everywhere now.
Yeah.
So
It's my boss. Shout out Jason. My boss, Jason, he told me that probably 7 years ago, and he stopped being my boss, went to another company, but he's now back, and he's the bomb. But he told me that. So I have a buffalo that I printed out, and
Nice.
I have to, it's so silly, but when there's a situation that's bringing me anxiety, or a call that I'm going to have that could go south real quick, I'm like, be the buffalo.
Right.
Be the buffalo.
Yeah. And I think we have that self-talk, right? We have to put ourselves through that self-talk. And I think that's where a lot of self-development comes in and things like that. For me, everybody's like, oh, you're so calm. You're so, you do Facebook Lives and you look so natural at it. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't know that I took 2 XR2 before I did that live, because that helps with stress and anxiety and all that stuff. So I take a couple of those a day, because, if you haven't figured out that I'm pretty high strung.
I've seen her closet. Yo, it's extra.
It's perfect.
It is. And it's not
perfect.
right, Allison.
That's like 7 years in retail.
But I will
help
tell
it.
you, she has this one cabinet full of Tupperware. I'm just kidding.
I do have a cabinet full of Tupperware.
I know.
But it's pretty nice and neat. It's
just
for
kidding.
the most part. So I am super OCD and a perfectionist. But one of the things that I tell my team is, I do it scared. Right? I do those lives. I am shaking before I do those lives. I'm shaking before I come in here to do this. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
But but I'm going to do it scared. And that's what you have to do. You have to put yourself in a position where you get out of your comfort zone, because nothing grows in your comfort zone.
And I think a lot of people are scared of failure. Like, and if you fail, at least you tried.
Right.
At least you tried.
Right. I think what's worse than fear, I think worse than failure or fear of failure is regret.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
trying.
And everybody's so worried about what other people are going to think about them. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Just be you, be yourself, you know? And I don't care. Like, I mean, I do care. I want people to love me. I want people to like me. When they don't, it kills me. It's one of the hardest things when I find out like someone doesn't like me, just what we went through recently, right? It kills me. And I wear on it. I will think about that one person who doesn't like me in a room of 200 that do, right? I'm going to dwell on that person because I'm a people pleaser. I want to make everybody happy. But at some point you just get to that point where you're like, okay, I have to do this for me. No matter what, I'm going to get out of this comfort zone and I'm going to do this. And that's what this podcast is. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where this came from. You know, like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do a podcast. You know, a friend of mine.
Here we are.
Yeah, a friend of mine with Kimber Creek Media suggested, hey, you got a lot to say. Maybe you should do a podcast.
Well, maybe have a lot to say. In a good way. And that's your heart. You're just, listen, I'm here. I'm going to tell you what I went through, where I'm going. If you want to come, if you want to listen, if you want advice, I'm your girl. Yeah. And I love that about you, Allison.
Aww.
I do.
Thanks, Holly.
You're welcome.
I heart you. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. This is about helping other people. And if there's anything that Holly and I have shared that helps you, then that's fantastic. But I want to leave you with this. You've heard Holly's story, and hopefully you've heard past of mine, and we're okay. And you're going to be okay. You know, if we can get through that, anybody can get through it. It's not easy. We had support along the way, you know, but maybe have a conversation with Jesus.
Well, and, you know, you mentioned on one of your podcasts about this empty void, the void that we're all out here trying to fill. And one of the things I've learned is that we have a creator, and he created us to have a relationship with him. And when you don't have that relationship with Jesus, you do have a void. And I spent a lifetime trying to fill it with drugs, men, you know, being center of attention, being the best at everything. You know, I spent years trying to fill that void. And it worked for a little while. I even tried to fill that void with money, you know, and, you know, oh, money can't buy happiness. That's a really true story, because you can have all the money and still feel empty.
Yeah.
But, you know, we do have a void, and it is supposed to be filled. And that's a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. So,
yep. Well, I don't know how to end it on anything better than that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, your love for Jesus, your love for me.
I'm girl.
I'm so thankful for your friendship. I love you probably more than I love a lot of people in my life. I mean, you're at the top, sister. So
Danny?
You're right.
Just kidding.
You're right under Danny.
Danny's my bestie.
Yeah, Danny is her bestie.
Shout out Danny.
Danny loves her. She loves Danny. It's cool. But thank you for being here. I love you, and I think you're amazing. And I think we have so much more to give in the future. And I'm excited
for letting me be here and, you know, do this thing with you. It's really cool. Thanks to the guys in the background. I appreciate you guys. And thanks for coming on Wednesday and just sharing your heart and being sincere and humble. And what's that word when it's authentic? Maybe that's it. Authentic. You're just authentic, and just, you know, and I love that about you.
I don't have anything to hide. I'm an open book. You know, ask me no questions.
I know.
No lies, for
make
real.
Sure you want to know the answer.
Yeah, you make sure you want to know the answer when you ask me a question.
She will definitely tell you her opinion.
It's a fact. So you guys can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcast. Shout out to Kimber Creek Media for the use of the studio time. And you guys have a great day. Peace out, homies.